Hello, good afternoon. Can I just start by saying what an absolute pleasure it is to be here in Manila, and thank the organisers of this wonderful event for having me here, and especially to thank ASEAN, this amazing organisation, in its 50th year. So this afternoon's session, we're going to focus on hubs and clusters and why they matter and what difference they make to our cities, our countries, and the creative economy. Just very quickly to introduce myself and my organisation. I work with my business partner Tom at the Tom Fleming Creative Consultancy, and we work all over the world, based in the UK, but we work extensively overseas, helping cities, countries and organisations to grow and prosper across the creative economy. To start with, I want to just take a step backwards and look at why it is that cities are so successful. What is it that makes cities successful? Because I think we need to understand a bit about the dynamics of places before we understand really why clusters and hubs have this vital role to play. One concept really sums up why cities are the most successful driving force of the economy that there's ever been, and that's density. One of my favourite economists of cities, a guy called Edward Glaser, said this very pertinent point about cities, that the reason cities work so well as drivers of the economy is because they are the absence of physical space between people and companies. They are proximity, density, closeness. We all know that. Just look around us here. It is density that makes this city so successful. Sometimes, of course, that density can be too much. But without density, then really the physical connection that cities enable can never happen. But more than just density, cities have always been and are gateways between people and markets, between countries and other countries. Increasingly today, we find that cities and countries are more globalized and connected than ever before, and that actually it's cities more than just countries that are the driving force of that connectivity. In particular, we find that innovation and growth is something that now happens on a city-to-city basis as much as it does on a country-to-country basis. Increasingly, though, in terms of how that innovation and how that knowledge exchange happens between countries, we find that creativity is one of the main ways that cities are using to unlock their potential to compete for the three vital things that we need to be successful. That's people, trade, and innovation. Okay, so that's a bit on why cities matter and why cities are this incredible driving force. I just want to share with you now a little story about a city in the UK that really illustrates these points. It illustrates as well the value of clusters and hubs in all their varieties and how they can make a real difference. This city is Liverpool. So it's on the northwest coast of the UK. It's tiny in comparison to the cities in this region. It's 559,000 people. But in UK terms, that's quite big, actually. Now, you all know Liverpool, don't you? Everyone knows Liverpool. Liverpool comes with more cultural baggage and more history probably than any other town in the UK. It's where the Beatles come from. It's famous for football. But that's actually only a tiny bit of Liverpool's story. If all you know is the Beatles and football, then you only know the kind of glossy bit of Liverpool. The actual story of Liverpool over the last 50 years has been one of long-term decline. It's a city which had a very strong industrial base. It was one of our most important ports, but that declined, and the population dropped off, went down from 800,000 people. Over a period of about 20 years, and driven partly by Liverpool becoming the European capital of culture, so something that connects with your UNESCO City of Culture kind of program. It's a similar-ish concept. It's a one-year-long festival. Liverpool had a very successful year of culture in 2008. And that was vital in terms of bringing people together and in terms of galvanizing the city. But actually, I just want to look at just three things very quickly, three different types of hub and cluster that have really driven Liverpool to be a much more successful place now. These are Liverpool One, the rope walks, and the Baltic Triangle. To start with the Baltic Triangle, this was an area of just unused warehouses. They were built for an economy that never came, for an economic change that didn't happen. And actually these warehouses have now been transformed into creative business spaces and have completely revitalised a vital area of the city on the waterfront. But that's only one take, that's work for that area. In another area of Liverpool, an historic area, the central area, called Rope Walks, the regeneration and revitalisation there has been driven by independent shops and culture, in particular by the hub that's called FACT. So here we see a historic centre revitalised by independent shops and by a cultural centre. And then finally the latest one, the latest development, is called Liverpool One. And this is a kind of outdoor shopping mall, but it's also where the library is, and it's also a vital connecting part of Liverpool, linking up the old and the new. If we put those three together, we'll see that actually what has helped Liverpool become successful is that partnership and collaboration between institutions. That culture alone cannot drive the regeneration of a city. So as much as we all love creativity and culture, it plays a part alongside the development of retail and other bits of city infrastructure. And that finally supporting the small scale is just as important as anything else, supporting those small scale entrepreneurs. Okay, so I'm about to introduce three fantastic speakers who are going to tell you their experiences from Thailand, from Malaysia, and from Scotland. Before they come on, I think there's 5 challenges that I know they are going to address partially in their speeches and then hopefully in the questions afterwards. And these are kind of 5 big challenges really for cities, for hubs and clusters. These are the things that I think are top of the list when it comes to what city planners, what our strategists, what our governments need to be thinking of. Firstly is about how do we drive innovation and upscale the economy. It's a global problem. We live in a very globalized and connected world. Increasingly, the answer for this is about how do we unlock the innovation potential of existing companies as much as it is about how do we create new companies and new opportunities. Increasingly here, this is an example of a hub in Tbilisi in Georgia, in Europe. It's an example of a place that's been designed by the government as a way of driving innovation by bringing together, in this case, a range of social entrepreneurs and businesses together. Secondly, and I think this, in terms of the cities across the region, is a really vital point. It's how do we balance development with openness and creativity? New development is the lifeblood of cities. Without new development, without our new whether that's shopping malls, whether that's residential development, whether that's business parks. Cities die without them. Cities can't stay still. They need to move on. But how do we balance these new private developments with a sense of openness and creativity? I think a really good example of this, again from the UK, is King's Cross in London, which was for a stage the largest city centre redevelopment in Europe. And it went from an area that was famous for being run down. It was kind of a black and white area in a colour age. But through very sensitive redevelopment and through bringing in a new art school, through ensuring that there are public spaces, through laying on a programme of events, and through, above all, through fantastic environmental improvements and landscaping, it's become a destination for consumption and production of culture as much as it is a driver of economic success. Thirdly, how do we connect the ecology? How do we connect those strands of the DNA that make a city work? The universities, the social enterprises, the schools, the civic institutions, the things that without which a city simply doesn't function. These are the blood cells in our arteries of the city. How do we connect them up best together? Well, I think here is where hubs have a real role to play. So here's a great example from Turkey of it's called the IMA, and this works by bringing together a university, fashion designers, and small producers of textiles. It's a really good example of how a hub can play that role in bringing together the ecology of a city. Fourth, how do we share the benefits? We all know we live in an unequal world where the distribution of wealth and opportunity is not shared equally. But one of the things we're finding in cities, these cities that help drive prosperity for all, is that actually when it comes to clusters and hubs, they have a vital role to play in ensuring that the benefits are more shared out more equally. This is a marvellous place from Kenya in Africa called the Godan Arts Centre, which over 10 years has established itself as a centre for not just culture, but also for creative industries, for innovation, and for technology. And it really is quite inspiring as a place that can actually help transform lives. So I think in terms of our presentations later, when it comes to clusters and hubs, we should really concentrate on their role in helping to share the benefits more widely. One of the perils of culture and creativity, and a story that we don't always tell, is that actually sometimes it's too successful and this process called gentrification occurs and we drive out people out of the city. This is a big problem in London, and it's a big problem in other cities where culture and creativity have helped transform a place. So it's really important that our clusters and hubs, in a way, help to retain a sense of authenticity and a sense of what it was that made the city successful in the first place. Finally, my final point is around what does sustainability mean? Now, sustainability is one of these awful words that people like me use. But in this sense, I mean, not only in terms of green stuff, ecology, but also in terms of a sustainable type of economy and a sustainable type of growth. Far too often growth is kind of pictured being around large companies, being around conventional kind of economic paradigms. But we know, don't we, from the travails of the world over the last few years, that actually those paradigms sometimes need to shift. And in many ways, the best way of shifting those paradigms is through the work that clusters and hubs do in fostering many small and medium-sized companies that can provide new opportunities and growth for a wider variety of people. And this is a really good example from London called The Hub, rather conveniently, which is one of these impact hubs that now stretch across the world. Okay, so before I introduce the speakers and before I wrap up, I just want to end on the words of Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple, who we all know. And he said, when asked about what it was that made Apple successful as a company, he said, it's in Apple's DNA that technology alone is not enough, that it's technology married with liberal arts, married with the humanities, that yields the result that makes our hearts sing. I think these are very pertinent words, because actually this is one of the reasons that Apple has been so successful. It's not just about the technology, the hardware, and it's not just about the software. It's also about the way that Apple has marries with content that allows people to produce stuff that's made it successful. I think the word that's missing from this, these words, is that actually it's not just technology, liberal arts and humanities, it's also commerce that made it successful, because Apple, above all, has been a ruthlessly successful company. So there we are. I think in our talks that we're about to have, I think we'll really be exploring how it is that hubs, clusters, how it is that these wonderful organisations we're going to hear about, how it is they bring together the arts, science, commerce and technology. Thank you very much. Okay, so without further ado, I'd like to introduce our first speaker from Thailand. This is Dr. Peeradorm Kaewlai. He is lecturer at the Faculty of Architecture and Planning at Thammasat University and senior advisor to the Thai Creative and Design Centre. As an expert in the field of urban development and research, he has led the group that really introduced creative city research into Thailand. He's been actively working with the government and as an entrepreneur on projects that are about increasing city competitiveness and economic success. And recent projects include the Bangkok skyline, an elevated walkway connecting two districts within the city. Anyway, I'll hand you over to Dr. Peeradorm. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Andrew. Okay, thank you very much. And first, on behalf of Tcdc, I would like to thank the British Council and people at the British Council and organizing committee for having us in this event. And it's been very exciting for me. My talk going to be about how design center can be a catalyst for urban revitalization. It's actually a case study of Tcdc itself. Tcdc, let me give you a little bit about background of Tcdc. Tcdc was established 13 years ago, and it served as a country learning resource center for design and creativity. It's working directly under office of the Prime Minister. It has a mission to use design to improve Thai economy and also the quality of life of Thai people. It promote the use of design and creativity, expand learning opportunity for Thai, and also support businesses and entrepreneurs. We introduced creative economy into Thailand about 10 years ago, and it has been using as one of the mechanisms in the National Development Plan. The last one, 11 plan, and the current one, the 12 plan, and it will be in the next few years. And also we introduced design thinking and service design as a tool to local entrepreneurs and designers to help them develop the products and services. We also opened another location throughout the country. The Chiang Mai is already open in 2013. The next one is in Khon Kaen in the northeast, and to the south we're going to have Songkhla in 2020. And the two new locations in the northeast and to the south have been supported by the current government, an army government. They really know how to use design creativity to really help the country. And the design and creative economy policy, it was the only policy that got carried over from government to government to the current government. Another data that really support us in working harder is from the survey of Ministry of Finance. We discovered that design entrepreneur and creative business owner, their average revenue increased 26% after using Tcdc facilities and resources. As a design center or creative industry, you really need to have this kind of data to convince the government to support you. Everything that you can quantify into numbers, you really need to do that. At the beginning, we maybe the same as many of you, we are creatives, we are designers. We have to be good friend with economists, and they can help us quantify everything. The project I'm going to talk about is the relocation of Tcdc to Jillian district. One day, 4 years ago, I got a call from Tcdc director, asked me to have a meeting. They called me up. We should have a meeting. It's an urgent meeting. I said, where are we going to meet? We're going to meet at the Tcdc office that used to be in a shopping center. He said, no, we're going to meet in Jillian district. I asked why, and they said, okay, don't ask, just meet me there. And they asked me to meet at the Grand Postal building. It's the building on the right. That's where we have a meeting. It's a decayed old building. It used to have a service of Thailand Postal Company, and it had been abandoned. And Tcdc asked me, is it a good idea for us to move there? We really need a permanent location. I told them it's quite a big job. It's easier for you to get a budget and build a new building. And they said they're really interested in using this building because of the history and architecture. And they also asked me if I'm interested in working with them and to find out what's going on around the district, because it's the first time that they're going to move out from the building into the city. Okay, I said, let's do that together. Where's Jillian district? This is a map of Thailand, and Bangkok is in the middle. And Jillian is actually not very far from Ratanakosin Island. The dot in the middle is where Grand Palace is. It's actually in the middle is Yawara, Chinatown. This painting explains everything about the location of this area. On the right, you see the royal family. In the middle is the Chinese, and to the left is the Western people. It's actually where they settle, in Bangkok. The name of Jillian is the first road of Thailand, and we call it New Road. This is a picture of Jillian in the past. You see they have electric tramway. They're very equipped with modern transportation. The red dot here is where, the Western businesses cluster in that area, and also embassies and consulate, located in that area as well. Is the location of Mandarin Oriental Hotel, the East Asiatic, the Trade Worldwide, Assumption Cathedral, the central of Catholic community. But what happened to Charoen Krung? The British Embassy relocated to Wireless Road, a relocation of General Post Office, because they expand their company, and it's getting small for them. And the district not suitable for expansion because of the new law. The landlord don't know how to use with existing building. The district also don't have support and uses for different group of people. This is what we have left in the district. We have, very nice historical building, but no one, use it because they don't really know how to do an adaptive reuse. In this district, we have quite a diverse community. We have Muslim, we have Catholic, and we have Buddhists, living together, and also a long history and a very rich culture. Before we decided to move, we do a business survey. We going, each block and see what's really going on around our site. We, do a survey like very detailed. We knock on every door, and what we discover is we found that Charoen Krung is actually a jewelry and silverware district. It's about 24% of businesses and shop houses in that area. Another data that's very interesting is the abandoned shop houses. It's about 23%. It's about 114 something shop houses. We see that this is quite an opportunity if we can do something about it. Also, we found that there are many creative activities such as gallery hopping. It's also where art galleries cluster in that area. Also, they have creative activities such as street art, book group. This is the diagram that we used to convince the government. We said the city needs something. The city, in order for Bangkok to be very competitive, you need to have cultural facilities. And cultural facility in the city, in the district, this is what we need. And we proposed this diagram, and we proposed a crossing bridge, a pedestrian bridge crossing to across the river, the first one. Across the river is actually an icon Siam, a large mixed-use development designed by Norman Foster. This is the building that we're going to move in. We have an ambitions. We want to demonstrate how to use value creation in an old asset. And it's also an opportunity for the Design Center to act as a catalyst to revitalize historical district, also bringing design closer to community. This is also the slide that when we talked with the government to get a budget, we said that actually right now, when we talk about competitiveness, we're not talking about the country, we're talking about city. And each city need to have very strong district. And for country to be competitive, for city to be competitive, you need an intellectual capital and innovation facilities. And facility like Tcdc will help country move forward. Then we organize open competition. We got the winner. Now it's under construction. We also doing a new programming and services. We use service design to reevaluate our service. And we're transforming resource center. It used to be resource center into a full-scale creative hub in the Charoen Krung district. This is the diagram of the program and the service diagram. Along with the development of the project, it's alerted business community in the area, and they got together. They think that they want to be part of the development of the district. They got together and they established a creative district foundation in order to be a new platform, because they want to be involved with urban development. They want to be involved with the district development. This has happened naturally. From then on, they have a meeting every 2 months, and this is a platform that can engage private and public sector and also community to talk about the future of the district. And while Tcdc is under construction, we have an outreach program in Charoen Krung. We have a workshop, Introduce Children Kung to New Generation. We have a project called Co-Create Children Kung. I also work on this project with my colleague here, Ajahn Kwan Pong Ayuchi is here with me today. And this is the project where we reach out to the people. We identify 10 stakeholders in the district, and we talk with them, do a focus group using design thinking to get an insight from them, and then have them co-create a public space that they really want. And this is very useful because we get to know them better. And in the end, we have a solution, a public space that they really want to use. And we create a 3-day test day that we build a public space that used for 3 days and recorded the data and see how people react to new public space that they have. We create a new riverfront project. We putting a green space in front of the building. We are reconnecting local alley together to enhance business inside the community. And another one is we do adaptive reuse for abandoned shop houses. And this project is the one that got further because after that we do another research survey, and we found that there are many buildings also still abandoned. We talking with Crown Property Bureau because they are the largest property owner in the district, and they are interested in working with Tcdc to use an old abandoned shop houses to put it in a new program. We also do an evaluation of the district using a creative district components and driver. And we think right now the district already have strong community stakeholders. If the Tcdc move in, we're going to have a cultural institution. We have incubation facilities of the new service. We have creative cluster because we have 30,000 members going to move into the district. We can be part of creative ecology. We will provide workspace. And the change that happened, the local investment is increasing. Creative events happen to be in that location. People engage more with the district. And this number is coming up and rising. We really need to have economic development plan, district programming, district branding, marketing. This is a lot of work in the future, but we already plan to do that in the next 10 years. This is the picture of before and after. The design center will open next Friday. We're going to have soft opening for 3 days soft opening. If you happen to be in Bangkok, please stop by. We have music, we have everything. This is a rendering of the new Tcdc. This is the library. It's on the rooftop, and they're putting a final touch right now. This is the photo that I could get from them. It's the material resources, maker space. This is the roof garden. This is the library and co-working space on the roof. This is the main entrance. And this is the poster of the event, 3 days event next week. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Peeradorm. That was a fascinating talk. Next, it's my real pleasure to introduce Jillian Eason. Now, Gillian is one of those fantastic people who it was summed up best by Malcolm Gladwell in his book The Tipping Point. She's a natural maven, someone that brings together people, projects and ideas. More formally to introduce her, she co-founded Creative Dundee in 2008, which was designed to connect and amplify talent. She's brought Petra Kuchanites to her home city and led the development of a very successful crowd platform called We Dundee. Creative Dundee supports creative talent to grow and sustain their practice in and around Dundee by connecting and amplifying the city's creativity. Working locally, nationally and internationally, Creative Dundee has an original digital platform, events programme and works in partnership with others to support the city's strong creative scene. Here you are, Gillian.
Hello. So, who had heard about Dundee before you found out I was coming today? Had anybody? That's like 4 more people than usual. So that's part of the reason that I set up Creative Dundee was visibility in my home city. So I was frustrated a former designer that, yeah, people just didn't know what was happening on the ground. So set up a blog, a website, and in 2008, and then it's just sort of snowballed from there. Part of the other reason was that I was frustrated, lots of frustration, but that's where business ideas generally come from. Frustrated that our local authority or local government didn't really understand the value of culture or creative industries. So I suppose this represents a 10-year kind of, 10-year journey of some of the projects that we've been involved with and some other projects that I just enjoy. Remember that photo. We might come back to that later. So, yeah, I'm just going to whiz through this. If I can get this to go. So just a bit of context setting. We are quite far away from London, probably equally distant from, say, Manila to Cebu. And we have lots of challenges about being quite, not isolated, but one of the main differences, and we're probably the most different city here today, is that our population is teeny. And actually, I was looking at the fact that the whole of Scotland, so the kind of purple bit from the Philippines, the word Philippines up, that whole area has half the population of Metro Manila in it. So the whole of Scotland has 6.5 million people, which is just incredible. So just to give you a sense of that, but there are some similarities, as you will hopefully see. There's no traffic as well, so you never get traffic jams. That is one good thing. So if you ever want to come to Dundee just to escape from the jams, please do. We also have, we've got an extinct volcano at our core. It's not like Tal, it's not dangerous. And I also noticed that this is our river Tay, spelled T-A-Y, and next to Manila you have Tai Tai, is that right? Tai Tai? Tai Tai? Okay, oh sorry, my bad. Yeah, anyway, so, and I think with this whole region, we share another similarity, which is our love of whiskey, perhaps, for some. So yeah, we've got a number of key sectors, and it's really taken a few years for people to catch up on the creative industries and the value of culture. So we are a UNESCO City of Design as well, so we're the UK's only UNESCO City of Design, granted the status in 2014. And so it was wonderful hearing about the other UNESCO cities this morning. We got the title because of our strong industrial heritage in design and our kind of future trajectory. There's a number of different organisations that make up the sort of ecosystem. I'm not going to go through them just now, but you can read more about them. And we've got city design values. So we are perhaps the only city, certainly in the UK, that has a set of design values which enables any business, organisation, individual to sign up to these values and then use the UNESCO branding. And it's a really valuable brand, as we've been hearing about this morning. But you can see social justice is really at the heart of what we do in the city. And one of the key commitments that the local council has done has put all of its senior managers and directors through service design training, so it's great. One of the other things that is coming to the city next year is the V&A. So Victorian Albert Museum of Design, we are getting the first outpost. There's one coming in Shenzhen in China, but we're getting the first outpost in the UK, which is great. So that will be a big deal when it arrives next year. And just last month, we were within the UK Tech Nation report listed as having the highest growth turnover in the tech industry of 171%. So we've got a big tech and video games community in the city. For me, actually, the more interesting stat was the 91% of tech workers really valued their life, the quality of life in Dundee. So a wee bit more about what we do. So we're a virtual, remote, nomadic hub, however you want to describe us. We don't have a space. We move from place to place. And it means that we can inhabit spaces that maybe other communities wouldn't go into. And we run events. We have a really active online platform. But predominantly, what my role is trying to nudge the city in the right direction. Nudge, maybe sometimes stronger. But this is how our community have described us. And the larger the word, the more it's been kind of said. But our vision is to be a sort of international hub. This is our website, so we always post interesting content, lots of opportunities. But the reason I'm here, I think, and the reason that we're all here together, is that we all share this common interest in the fact that we believe the creative industries and culture is really central to the kind of innovation and growth of our cities. So we're all about inclusive growth for the wider economy, and I'm going to talk about some of the steps that I think we need to take to ensure that happens. Because I also understand that people are here from different backgrounds, so some from policy level, some like me, really practical grassroots. And yeah, I believe that creative hubs are really central to creating those enabling conditions for that innovation and growth to happen. So, I guess, I hope we all see that citizens are at the core of everything we do. So I'm going to talk through a couple of case studies on each of these different layers. And I think for citizens, beyond how do we help ourselves to have good quality lives, the next kind of most interesting point for me is how do people help other people? How do they inspire other people? So these are a couple of projects that have happened in the city. One is called Other Dundee. It's a really spooky horror walking tour around the city. It's also got an interesting cultural tourism element for younger millennials who are much more digitally savvy than perhaps me, older person, is. But yeah, it's been a really interesting pilot, and we're looking at how do we grow our kind of video games cultural tourism in the city. The People's Tower is a phenomenal event. Nobody was sure how it was going to go, and it was led by a really strong team, and it involved hundreds of citizens building an arch and then demolishing it and kids loving it the next day. It was really fun to see, but interestingly, they got the construction sector really on board as sponsors, and got volunteers throughout the couple of days. A project that we ran a couple of years ago, We Dundee, was about how do we enable and inspire pride in place, and I kind of get the feeling that there might be some similarities here. So we knew that Dundonians were quite down on themselves, and we wanted to do something that inspired people. So we created this crowdsourcing platform. You could upload your little image with a little comment about what you loved about the city and what you would love to see happen in the future of the city. And it's gone on to be really successful. We created opportunities for people to come together, and we're looking at what the next step is now. So it's almost like a feedback tool for the city as well about how it's doing. And it's one of the central things, the reasons that we got the UNESCO City of Design title. So creative hubs, again, you want to be part of the bigger picture. We're part of a really interesting European project called the European Creative Hubs Network. And again, I think it's really interesting for the ASEAN network to look at, because what it enables is people, leaders of creative hubs around Europe, to get together at forums and events and skills workshops and do peer-to-peer hub exchanges. Here we have one from Portugal visiting Germany, and they really valued the experience about the challenges being quite similar and learning from each other. So then the wider economy, what is of interest about the creative industries to the wider economy? Well, it's about creativity, given the competitive edge. So once you've challenged people on price points, then you've really only got creativity to kind of give. So a couple of interesting projects, not by us, but Creative Edinburgh, similar organisation to Creative Dundee. We work very closely with them, and they're the lead partner for the European Creative Hubs project in the UK. They run hot desk hangouts. So on the last Friday of every month, they inhabit a corporate space, so say a newspaper base, and they bring their network with them. So people go on hot desk from that. And it builds a really interesting relationships with the private sector who might not otherwise understand what the creative sector does. And it's something that we're looking at bringing to Dundee. And then the other event they run, Creative and Corporate Love, sort of does what it says on the tin. So it brings people from the different sectors together to kind of understand the different worlds. A project that we've been involved with, Creating Care, has been around how do we use and harness the capacity of the creative industries within the healthcare system. We know that healthcare is under massive stress globally, So how can we bring the knowledge and the creativity from that sector into the healthcare sector? One of the projects up there you can see is by a local gaming company which has been working with the Cancer Research UK charity, and they've been developing an app that allows you to fly through space, avoiding asteroids, but actually secretly you're mapping DNA data that would take doctors years to analyse. So we're really interested in those games for good, different approaches to video games really. Cultural tourism and social enterprise are other key wider economy issues that we're trying to crack through the creative industries. So how do we create new and interesting ways to engage tourists in our city? One of the things we've done, because we're becoming quite well known for crowdsourcing things, is that we asked the people of Dundee what places would they recommend to visitors, and this is our crowdsourced guide. Another project is Boost by Design. So how do we make sure that the third sector, the social enterprise sector, isn't left behind as a UNESCO City of Design? So we developed a sort of service design and digital program for those. And then finally, policymakers. So how does this all feed into policy? And how do we make sure that what we're doing is relevant and fits the needs of national and local policy? So one of the strategies, Creative Scotland, our local arts body, they've developed their creative industry strategy. They're very much seeing this sort of triple bottom line approach of culture, social, economic, and I would hope environmental as well. Maybe it's a quadruple one. But it's quite an interesting approach. Creative Industries Federation, if you've not come across them, they are quite an interesting UK network. We're a member of them, and they also agree that actually putting the creative industries at the heart of government thinking could really reinvigorate areas that are facing massive challenges. And one of the final things that we're leading is the Dundee Creative Sector Blueprint. So we felt, rather than bringing in consultants, sorry Andrew, we would actually lead the strategy ourselves. So we felt we were in the best position, and this is what I'm really keen to see happen, is that creative industries are actually driving their own policy, because too often we get kind of not included in the conversation. So we've been doing that with the sector and with the agencies that support it. So yeah, finally, these would be my kind of steps, I suppose, to how you try and do it. And as I say, we're not saying that we've done it all. We've definitely not cracked it. We're some of the way there. But some of the, I'll not read it all out, but some of those things I would say for policymakers, please don't set up new creative hubs. Please go and look at what else is actually out there, and please support those individuals that are already trying to do things in your communities. We too often see governments sort of setting up these massive incubator spaces, and then they're not being inhabited, and then there's tireless people that are working really hard to kind of make their hubs happen. Please go and look at them. And I would test out new partnership models between the creative sector and the wider industries, because they are out there. It's just about finding what fits. So I'm going to say that's me, but before that, I'm going to ask, you saw the first photo where everybody was like, yay! Can we do that? Cool, right, 2 seconds. I've even brought a wide angle lens, so that, okay, let's see. Oh wow, you're a bit bright, wait a minute. No. Do we have it? Right, so do we have a proper camera? Proper camera as well? Who's got a proper camera? No, nobody wants to. There was a proper camera, okay, doesn't matter. We'll just do it with a normal camera. No, you've got a proper camera. Come on, proper camera people. It's a great opportunity. Woo! Oh, I love that photographers are always really shy because they want to be behind the camera rather than in front of the camera. Okay, so once we get everybody go away, we'll all take a photo. Okay, so, doesn't matter. Okay, 1, 2, 3, way! Woo, woo, woo! Great, thank you. Thanks very much, guys.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Gillian. That was very, very inspiring. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Jia-Ping Lee, who is Programme Director of Think City. Now, we're going to hear a lot about Think City, but I know a bit about Think City, and they are a truly inspirational organisation who've done some amazing projects across Malaysia. So Jia-Ping is the Programme Director of Think City. She heads up the Kuala Lumpur office, Think City, to give it its official nomenclature, is a community-based urban regeneration agency set up by the Khazanah National Berhad, the Malaysian government's investing holding arm. She specialises in culture change, using the brand as a strategic tool for change. She helps build organisation culture by creating brand values, brand promise and brand positioning. This helps organisations attract the right staff and create processes that align with their brand. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Good afternoon. How's everybody? Okay, so this is the death zone, and everybody's kind of doing the post-meal stupor thing, right? So I hope that I can actually inspire you. So I'm from Think City, and we are part of a larger organization, 100% owned by Khazanah, our strategic arm, and also supported by one of their foundations. So what do we do? So we are actually a think and do tank. But, you know, I don't think the name Think Do City kind of has that nice ring to it, so we've kind of dropped off the do, but we do a lot. And so if you look at this, this is what we do. We drive urban regeneration, we provide policy thinking, and we implement innovative urban solutions. And the circle, the outer circle, shows some of our methodology in how we achieve this. And if you look at the right hand, arts, heritage, and culture is one of the fundamental tools that we use to drive urban regeneration. So how do we do that? We do that together with a lot of people. We're really a bottom-up organization. And that means that, you know, we feel the answer is with the people. It's really not us. And we just facilitate and enable and give people money, you know, as one of it. So we do public grants program. We're the first public grant, so anybody, even residents of the country, can apply for a grant. We have partnerships with local government. We work very closely with City Hall, and we partner with global corporations and global experts. We're also working with TITA, and we're all convening in Bandung in July for the Architectural Association Streetwear program. So please get your young, talented architects to enroll with it. So these are some of our partners. We have been very fortunate that they have actually come onto our bandwagon, been inspired by what we're trying to do, and also provide expertise. So I'll tell you a story. It really started in 2009 in Georgetown, Penang. Think City was given 4 years to actually implement change in Georgetown, the UNESCO heritage site, and then closed down. So this is what we inherited. This was Georgetown 2008. It was not a happy state. So what we did was we all sat in a room, we branded it, and we helped create a language that would transcend architectural language, urban planning language, and we called it a valued-based approach. Things like respect. How do we respect the different races and culture? You know, so I'm standing here because it's very disrespectful in my culture to have my bum facing people. So, you know, what is the context of it? Can we really understand everybody's culture before we do anything? And we have inclusiveness. That's very, very important as well. We have sustainability and creativity. And one of the things that we always get a bit of comment is that, you know, we're very relaxed people. So we have this saying in Malaysia, it's like, boleh lah, right? In Indonesia, we bisa, right? And boleh is very like, can do, we can do it. And so we said, no, we wanted to be a world-class city. And so the last value that we put in was excellence-driven. And how could we, as a developing nation, really drive something that could be benchmarked in world case studies? So we looked at heritage, culture, and cuisine, and the philosophy that we adopted was that many small things lead to change. So this is one of our grantees, 7 Terraces. This is what 7 Terraces was. It was really a jungle in a building, and it had trees growing out of it. And we gave them a grant, and it subsequently became this, right? This is the external wall. This is what it looks like inside. It's one of the listed, you know, best boutique hotels in Georgetown. So do come and stay. This is Renai Tang. It used to be an old traditional Chinese medicine hall, which closed down. We negotiated a longer lease for the tenants, and it now looks like this. It's brilliant. So if you don't want super luxe, this is the place to go. We also looked at negotiating for landlords not to displace people that have been staying in the shop houses for many generations. And that's one way of stopping gentrification. We also looked at parks, public realm, and we looked at this park, which was beautiful to start off with, but it was basically in a dilapidated state. It had been taken over by what we call this thieves market. So the joke is, if you lose your Nike and you want to get it back, you go to the thieves market and buy it back. So that's the joke for this market. It's called the Armenian Street Park. And we basically talked to everybody there, including the traders. We sat on the floor, we worked with them, and basically we put people at the heart of solutions. We do a lot of stakeholder engagement, and this is where this is what happened to the park. And we relocated the thieves traders next to the police station so that the drug pushers would kind of stay away, we hope, right? And also what we found out that it's not enough just to build, because, you know, one of my favorite films has this quote, says, "Build it and they will come." But unfortunately, when you build it, they don't necessarily come. So programming and placemaking is key to making sure that, you know, your parks are alive. So we also then helped out with the Georgetown Festival. We sponsored a lot of tickets. We gave them away so that people would understand culture. And I think 4 years on, my boss got into a taxi, and the taxi driver said, "Oh, you know, I'm going to go and I bought tickets to the Georgetown Festival." So that's a little victory for us, a taxi driver buying a ticket to watch a cultural experience. So this is what happened after 4 years. And when the powers to be saw it, they said, "I don't think it's a good idea for you to close down. So why don't we look at a national agenda?" And this is, this is another small victory. We got listed 10 years on as one of the world's 10 best cities to visit. So we then decided to expand to Butterworth to actually increase our living laboratories to Kuala Lumpur and to Johor Bahru. So Tom Fleming asked me to talk specifically about Kuala Lumpur because that's my area that's my area, full stop. So if you look at this is our area, the parts in red. That's the 1 kilometer historic downtown core that we work with. And we're wanting to look at it as like a mall without a roof. You know, how can we use the power of 10 to actually enliven many, many quarters in this red part of the town. So we look at activities, what do we do with places and people. So we did a baseline study, and we found that the population in that area, daytime, was 55,000 people, but at night, it was only 20%, 11,000 people. And there wasn't enough of an economic activity to drive anything. And so, you know, what you're going to see is it's going to go down towards slum area if we don't arrest it and look at urban regeneration. So we always look for inspiration everywhere we can get it. And we found that these two gentlemen, I think Robert Hammond and Joshua David, some of you may not know them, but they were the people who first started the Friends of Highline. And it's really about the power of people. It's not about governments anymore. It's all in your hands. So these two inspired us, and you know, we went to, first thing we did when we got off in New York was to go to the Highline, take pictures, and I've got tons of them in my, you know, hard drive. But we also looked at our friends next door. And this man, you know, he's like a superstar in KL. Everybody loves him. Of course, he's Ridwan Kamil, mayor of Bandung, and, you know, doing things like that. We said, wow, that's a new narrative in an urban environment that we need to actually propagate. So what we did was we then told everybody in Kuala Lumpur to say, if you have an idea, come to us. And this man came, and he owns an old art printing works, a printing factory. And he basically said, can I create a pocket park? And I said, sure, and we gave him money. So this is what he's turned some of his factory into, beautiful hipster places. This is the park that we gave money to before. This is after. So I'm going to run through them, yeah. And this is what, with a little bit of imagination, this is a co-working space in the same area, what you can do to create creativity. So he's actually a hub on his own. And this is what I call the best looking toilet in Kuala Lumpur. So contact me and I'll take you on a trip there, you know, it's well worth it. This is another print factory area, and he's turned it into a breakfast, it's called Breakfast Thieves. It's a Australian kind of franchise. So this is what it looks like. So I'm going to whiz through it. These are also local champions that came to us, and we're very happy to work with him. The guy on the right is Siksan. He's a star landscape architect, and so he's been helping us with a lot of things. We've mapped out what are the vegetables in Kuala Lumpur that are being served locally, and what can we do with them, and we're starting a local government, sorry, a urban garden with them, and they're also sponsored by British Council. Yay, British Council, thank you. And this is another hub that came to us. The owner said, you know, we need money, we need to relook at this space, and we gave them money, and so it's now almost every little window has a creative business. So we're really excited about it, so come down and visit. We also talk to architects to reimagine spaces, and we were approached by many artists to say, we want to do stuff in the city, but we have no space, so we got them a space. And we also have an outdoor space that was given to us by the City Hall, and they said nobody's going to come and do things here because they're all scared that they're going to be slayed or robbed, you know, if they come down. So we said we're going to challenge that. We held an activity and 20,000 people came in one weekend. So we know it's not about the space, it's about the lack of content, right? So look at this. So this is a space where people warn you not to go to. And look at the people there. We also had a nighttime wayang kulit, and people brought their children. So really, it is about content. And if you think about it, it's don't build it, provide the content, and people will come. So we also look at creating movement. How do we then take back spaces that have been colonized by advertising? Sorry if there's any advertising people here. But really, you know, I'm a bit worried that everything we look at outside the window is all about advertising. I want more trees. So we created Arts on the Move, and Arts on the Move is really taking back transit spaces and making them into creative hubs. So this is what this is a transit tunnel, and this is what it looks like now. And also what this has happened is it has helped build champions. People have come to us and said, can we do things? So from this series called Resonance, it became Resonance Short Stories. Right? And this is a short story done all online, submitted online. Then we had Residence Kids. We took kids from homes and told them how to take photographs. And this is a photograph done by one of the children. It's amazing. And so we called it the Kids' Awesome Guide to Photography. And so this is we went and sort of contacted a 9,000 strong Facebook group called Doodle Malaysia, and we said, come down and do your thing. And you know, this is what it did. Oh, my time's up. So this is us. We do all sorts of things. We've turned a transit space into a performance space. So I'm not going to show you the video, and this is what it is. And so we have 10,000 commuters, 35,000 people now know about this on every time we do it. Every Tuesdays and Thursdays at 5 to 7, come down and watch a show. It's totally free. It's our effort to build an audience for the future, because if you don't have an audience, you can't build a creative hub. So this is some of our programming. We really treat it like a theater, so it's quite interesting. And so imagine this space now. This is, the dots are us and City Hall. What would happen if we tripled those dots? I think you would then get a creative hub and a cluster. So this is us. Think big, act small. Thank you.
Well, look, thank you all very much again. I think that is definitely the end. I'm getting a thumbs up there, so brilliant. Thank you very much to the speakers, and thank you to the organisers. Thank you.